Hey, welcome everybody. It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock in December, which means it's our holiday
It's time for
special of
holiday distilled.
holiday distilled. There you go.
Holidays at the distillery.
So this week we are doing a very old movie going way back to 1947, and it is a
My mother
Miracle
was
on
like 5
34th
when this
Street.
thing came out.
Yeah. So it was a classic. It still is a classic. It's right up there, I think, with It's a Wonderful Life as far as
Yep.
treasured films. I watched this probably for the first time, beginning to end. We're obviously going to talk about it. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining us.
Chris.
But before we get into that, I think we've gotten some news.
We've got some news, just a little tiny bit, but we can discuss. Oh, Star Trek Section 31 has just dropped a full trailer. And everyone, I haven't seen it. I didn't hear people raving. So, but we do have a little
optimistic. I hate to say it. I'm not optimistic.
None of us are optimistic. We do have a little more insight into what they were thinking with this particular project. It was written by Craig Sweeney and directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi, who directed a ton of disco. Olatunde directed so much disco. Craig Sweeney, the screenwriter, spoke of the show saying, "It has always been my goal to deliver an entertaining experience that's both true to the Star Trek universe, but also appeals to newcomers. I wanted a low barrier of entry so that anyone could enjoy it." So that already makes me nervous, but that's okay. He also said, "I wanted to talk about and to show the people who were at the edges, like out in the field, but at the edges. These are not the people who work together on a bridge. These are like all the people kind of out on the fringe." So take that to mean what you will, I guess. I'll give it I'm going to watch it. I'll check it out. I'm willing.
I'll watch it. I mean, I think the concept, the idea is not a bad one. It's just CBS Paramount's execution of Star Trek has just not been good. And it's in the disco universe, which I'm not a fan of. I'll be honest with you. If you like it, great. It's not my thing.
Disco, disco had its moments. Like I really enjoyed Laura, what's his name? Jason Isaacs. Like
I think the first two seasons are still some of the best.
I enjoyed Rainn Wilson as Mudd.
Yeah.
I enjoyed some of that stuff, but then I don't know. Took a hard left somewhere in there.
And of course, Pike, that
I did enjoy. I enjoyed a lot of stuff that Anson was doing. Yeah, so I don't know, whatever.
But it just really fell off after season 2, in my opinion. It just really tanked.
I don't disagree.
Like I said, whatever you're into, I don't want to. If you like it, I'm not trying to make you.
Well, I mean, it proves your theory, Rizzo, that whatever your first Trek is, that's your favorite Trek.
Yeah, there are some people that absolutely love it. So
I'm sure there's going to be kids out there who are like, I loved disco. And you know what? More power to you, kid. Come to the set tour and see where it all started.
Right. And, maybe if I was the first Star Trek I'd ever watched, maybe I'd be in that camp too.
Yeah, exactly. Rizzo, I want to hear your opinion on this. Dave Filoni has told us that Ahsoka Season 2 production is moving to London, England. So they will not be relying on the volume. They're going to actually look for practical locations. What do you think about being on location versus being in the volume?
Well, I think it comes down to money. I'm curious, did he say why they are doing that?
He didn't say why.
I can't imagine it's cheaper. It can't.
No, I can't imagine either.
It's got to be much more. Location shooting is always very expensive. I guess maybe he's just feels that he's going to give it a different look to it. Although we all knew the volume worked.
The volume was
so well. It was seamless, in my opinion. I couldn't tell that where the real set ended and the volume started, and you know what I'm saying. And I think the cool thing about the volume, well, it did give you that sense that for the actors that they actually got to see the effects. So it wasn't a green screen.
True.
They were seeing what we would see. Saying so for them, it made it more realistic for them to interact. Of course, on an actual set.
Yeah.
Or location.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like being on location, especially if you're okay with weather. Like if your show can have weather happening, that's cool. But
so basically, though, what we're going to get is a lot of planets that look like Northern England.
That look like Northern England,
or Ireland, or wherever they're going to shoot, or Scotland. That's what's good. It was like all on SG1.
Wow, that looks like the Highlander. Yeah, that's
It was like SG1. All the planets they went to looked like the Pacific Northwest.
exactly.
It just ironically looked like.
It's like there's like so many shows like X-Files and Supernatural and all the Stargates that all filmed up in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And suddenly everywhere looks like, especially like Supernatural.
Every planet looked like
all of America looks like Vancouver.
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah, so I mean, I really don't have an opinion. We'll see. I mean, Dave is, he did good stuff with Mando, and whatever. So we'll see. I mean, I think Ahsoka had potential. I think it just kind of flopped a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
It's just too slow. I don't think it was bad. I think it was just they needed to tighten it up.
It could still.
It was just. Yeah, I think so. That they could improve it.
Well,
I did watch the first episode of Skeleton Crew though.
Yeah, I was just gonna say a little tiny thing about Skeleton Crew. This is nothing spoiler, not a spoiler. I just watched the third episode, and I'm gonna give those writers mad props for naming the third episode after a line from Joe versus the volcano.
I know they can do the job, but can they get the job?
Yeah, well, the line from Joe versus the volcano is very interesting as a luggage problem. The name of the third episode of Skeleton Crew is very interesting as an astronavigation or an astrogation problem or something like that. It's really cute. I saw that. I was like, what are they doing? It's just so random. All right, moving on. As promised, Prime has released the first footage from the upcoming third season of Wheel of Time. It'll be out on March 13th. I don't remember if I watched
season. I didn't even know there was a second.
Yeah, neither did I. So I may need to do some catching up. I remember
I haven't watched any of it. It didn't speak to me.
No, the show doesn't really speak to me, and I read all the books, and they didn't speak to me either. Plowing like stubbornly.
Why are you? It's kind of like it sounds like it's like me with Cobra Kai. Like the first three seasons, I thought was really cool and funny and great, and then I'm like, here we are, like season 5 or 6, and I'm just like, this just needs to end.
Yeah.
And then we get to the end. The thing that killed me was I was watching on Netflix. I'm like, okay, this is the last season, and we're gonna wrap it up. And we watch it, and they're like, and it ends on another cliffhanger. And you're like, the rest of the season will be coming soon. I'm like, oh, you people gotta be kidding me. Just let it die. Just let it die.
Part 1.
Just let it die, please.
Oh, speaking of my last item tonight, I need your opinion. I want you to wax philosophical for this, Rizzo. Speaking of letting things die, does anyone else, or do you, Rizzo, suddenly feel like every franchise has 16 shows and 3 movies in production? So, well, I was scouting for news for this segment. I noticed they're trying to crank out more Harry Potter with a new TV show. Game of Thrones has a show out. Lord of the Rings has a show out, and they have 2 movies coming, Hunt for Gollum and War for Rohirrim. Dune Prophecy is out. Like, you and I, Rizzo, have already lamented that both Star Wars and Star Trek are oversaturated. Should other franchises or other shows be seeing that and taking precautions? What do you think?
I agree. I think they're over. I think they've already done it. I think with Lord of the Rings they've already done it. I think with Game of Thrones they've already done. Well, I mean,
it's oversaturated. Yeah,
it's just like what they're putting out isn't great. It's just clearly obvious money grabs, in my opinion. I mean, I just wasn't overly thrilled with House of Dragon. I thought it was meh. The Rings of Power, meh. It just doesn't have the thing. So my thing is like, they keep going for what they think they're gonna have guaranteed income with, and I think they're probably right. If they punch out a new Star Trek, there's going to be a certain population that's going to watch it regardless.
It's going to be diminishing.
I think Disney learned their lesson, I hope, with The Acolyte, that you just can't punch out something and just because it's got Star Wars on it, people are just going to watch it. I think we've had it up to here, and we become like, because there was a time when we were getting so little, we would watch anything.
Yeah, sure.
If it was from that, you know what I'm saying? But now there's so much of it.
That's why I call it oversaturated. Yeah.
So what I would do is they need to do like you look at what Apple doing like Silo. Okay. So we took, those were books that are based on books, and there's other stories out there than these main franchises. Take a chance on something else.
Yeah.
Like I say, people, if you haven't watched, I haven't watched the second season of Silo yet. but the first season was great. So watch
Yeah.
that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go give
I wanna
these
go watch the
people
second
the look, the views.
It's like I reported last week, they're gonna try to do a TV series out of the moat in God's Eye. Finally, something different.
Yeah, I
Something
mean, those
we
are,
all
there's
know. I mean,
really-
not different. We know what that is. We've all read it, but
yeah, but there's that's what I'm saying. There are so much material
much
out there that they can
material out
pull
there, yeah.
from. That's not Star Wars. That's not Star Trek. That's not Lord of the Rings. That's not Game of Thrones. You know what I'm saying? That's not all these already established, popular. That's not Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I think they are like for Acolyte. See, that's what that I think they're perpetually torn between like, okay, let's try something creatively different. Let's try it, and then no, we need something bankable. Like we need to make our money. We need something bankable.
That's
'Cause
really, and I don't care what you say. That's what the Igers of the world. They're the ones that are sitting at top. They have the shareholders to answer to.
Yeah.
And if their stuff's not making money, they could care less
exactly.
what message you were trying or what agenda you had. They don't care. It didn't make money. That's all they care about.
Yeah.
So and I think what makes money, well, let's see. What has made money in the past. And it wasn't just that Acolyte didn't make money. It cost an insane amount.
Well, there's that. Yeah. We forget, like we always forget in show business, there's show and then there's business.
And it's business. The business is king. And what that show costs to make, nobody can even wrap their brains around why it costs that much. Because it's not like it was over on special effects any more than any other show. What were they spending money on?
What did they spend on?
I don't know.
Great question.
It's a good question. You'll have to ask the producer there. What's her name? Leslie. No, is it? No, was she? Yeah, Leslie.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't think of her name.
Headland.
Well.
Anyway, so we will see what happens in the future.
That's the lament tonight. Rizzo,
the future is where we will live.
Yeah, exactly.
In the future.
What are we drinking tonight while we talk about?
We're drinking another
1947
Christmas tree one. Holly Jolly cocktail. We got vodka, some Saint Germain, which is a elderflower liquor, not elderberry, elderflower. Third of a cup of clementine or blood orange juice.
Okay.
Ginger beer. So it's kind of a Moscow Mule kind of vibe.
Yeah, I like ginger beer, but I don't know what Saint Germain is. I've never had it.
It's an elderflower liqueur.
Yeah, you said that. But I don't know what does elderflower taste like.
I don't think there's not a lot. It's only a half an ounce. So
yeah. But I do like ginger beer, so I bet this is delicious.
It's like I said, it's probably a lot. It's probably imagine a lot like a Moscow Mule in some. That'd be my guess. So.
All right, Rizzo, tell me why. No, I know why. Tell the audience why. I favor, and I'm not going to lie to you. I favor It's a Wonderful. If I have to choose between 1940s Christmas movies, I favor It's a Wonderful Life. Why did you favor Miracle on 34th?
Because I find A Wonderful Life irritating and annoying.
It's not. It's so much more. It's
I don't know.
The rest of it's really not like Donna Reed.
I watched, I was watching it again, and it kind of just puts a smile on my face. I don't know why. I think it's the Santa Claus. I think
it's Edmund Gwynn.
Such a good Santa, and I think there's actually there were some laugh out loud moments I actually had where I actually laughed. Like that's funny. I don't know. This is actually a pretty progressive film when you think about it. Well, here, look at it. We have a divorced single mother as an executive at Macy's in 1947.
Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty progressive for 1947. I mean, I thought of that right off the bat. I'm like, wait a minute. She's not widowed. She said divorced.
Divorced. Yeah.
And she's and obviously she's taking care of her kid on her own.
Yep.
And never mentions the ex-husband beyond that she's divorced.
Nope.
And yeah, I don't know. I like the whole. It starts out with the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day parade, which again is part of my childhood from watching. Like I said, my family grew up in. My parents grew up in New York and Brooklyn, so like we always go to Thanksgiving at my grandmother's, and that was always on the TV when we got there watching the parade. Never actually went in person, but the balloons and the whole 9 yards. So, I mean, I think that's part of it always kind of spoke to me as kind of just nostalgia to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like this. It's a nice movie. It's just one of those ones you can sit down. I mean, so same thing with It's a Wonderful Life. I don't want to say, I don't know. I guess I don't think they're really trying to either. There's no lesson here either. They're trying to say like, oh, it's just it's kind of fun, you know. It's like, is this guy really Santa Claus or not?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
never really know. We assume he is because of things that happen with the house and
yeah.
at the end and stuff like
Well,
that.
it's
But
very,
they
very,
never
it's
really decide
deliberately,
whether he actually is
yeah,
Santa Claus
exactly.
or
It's deliberately very ambiguous. You could argue, and I've seen it as I did my research for this. I saw it argued both ways. I saw a very hard argument. No, that man is not Santa. He is mentally ill. And then I saw a very hard argument. Yes, he is Santa, and here's why. And they were both had really salient points. So I mean, but the theme of this movie, I think, is the faith, because they particularly tell the little kid Natalie Wood a couple times. Yeah, faith is believing in something even when common sense tells you not. That's kind of like the theme they're driving home. It's a Wonderful Life feels a little more like Christmas Carol, because it's kind of like this is what would happen
right.
kind of situation. Yeah.
They're trying to make a point that
Yeah.
everybody's important and
Everybody's
just the whole thing. Plus, there's that whole dark where he's going to kill himself kind of thing.
Well, yeah, it gets a little dark coming in there. Yeah.
Dark. It's kind of a little dark. So there's no really dark part of this. Let's see the fact they want to put him into Bellevue, which he didn't seem to. That was the thing. Like he never even argued. That's what I loved about the guy. He's like, okay, we're gonna go to the hospital now. Like he's just there.
Yeah, whatever, sure, whatever. So let's go back and kind of walk through it. Yes, they filmed this thing at the actual real live 1946 Macy's Day Parade, and Ed Gwynn really was the Santa for that. He rode the entire route, waved at everybody, did his thing as Santa. No one said to him, oh, and by the way, he's here because he's making a movie. No, they all just thought, oh, that's this year's Santa. And at the end, when Santa gets done, he has to go into Macy's and do a little, whatever the hell he does. He went and did that and did it happily. And not Natalie, Maureen O'Hara has a lot, like if you watch interviews, she has a lot of like memories of filming that day, because everything, they had like 14 cameras set up all around the parade route. She said we had one shot at everything, like one shot to get it, and if we didn't get it, we didn't get it.
Right.
The Natalie Wood and what's his name are sitting watching it from a window, and they only had like one chance, like it's going by a real window that you can actually see it in the background. That's not real projection or a screen or anything. It's
right.
real. And they only had one chance to get their stuff done. So I'm like, what a risk. And that was the beginning of filming, because this thing would have come out. They resumed filming.
Yeah, it didn't come out till the end next year.
Yeah, well, it came out in June, which makes no sense whatsoever. That's another thing we'll talk about. So yeah, they filmed like from Thanksgiving to Christmas, took a holiday break, and then resumed filming after Christmas. Yeah, and she said it was bitterly, bitterly cold, which it always is. Like every time you're watching the Macy's parade, it's like sub-zero, and people are like freezing out there watching these. But yeah, like what a risk.
This year it rained.
What a risk to take, and they did it, and they pulled it off. Like I don't know.
I think it was a different time.
Like that.
It was a different time. They would have never done that today.
Well, because everyone would be like, no, they'd be noticing. They're like, oh, they're filming something. Let's get it.
Yeah, there's that. It's true. I mean, but I guess they wouldn't do it because they wouldn't be guaranteed. Like they're so have to get this specific shot in modern filmmaking that they would never just wing it like that and go, well, hopefully we'll get it.
Yeah.
And and hopefully if we don't get it, I guess we got to wait till next year.
I mean, I don't know. Maureen said we only had one shot at some of these things. Maybe they had two. Like, I don't know. I don't really know how hard it was, but it sounded like the pressure was on. It really did.
Oh, I'm sure it was. I have no doubt that it was. My point is just that today they would have just never done it. Because
they was like, let's go to volume and have the parade.
They would just create it, do it CGI, whatever.
Here comes the clown float.
Do it on a backlot at Hollywood somewhere, some studio.
Exactly.
They would just hire the extras, the band, whatever they needed to do to make it. They would never do it live like that.
Yeah. And then the other thing they did that was phenomenal for this particular movie and for 1947 is they actually filmed in Macy's. Now, admittedly, they filmed at night after the store had closed. And they had to get all their filming in Macy's done before December 25th because all the Christmas decorations would come down. So they had to use them while they were still up. So again, pressure to get things done before a certain date. And in a store, in a real store, and Natalie Wood was saying, yeah, Maureen and I, like, in between takes, we'd like go wandering off and like walk through housewares and walk
Yeah.
through like all the
Yeah, if you've
departments.
ever been to Macy's in Manhattan,
Oh, it's
it's a
huge.
huge
It's
store.
so many floors.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 floors. It's just like Saks or anything. They're huge. They're just like, and of course, so just to shoot in there, and they did it. That was the thing. And my dad, he was of that child era. He was probably he would have been, well, in this movie came out, he would have been 12. So he's the right age, for remembering.
Yeah.
And he'd always say, especially we'd always watch A Christmas Story.
Yes, I was just gonna say,
and, the window, all this
the
setup.
Christmas Story does that.
Like, that was
so
Macy's.
well.
That was He's like, I remember going into the city with my parents and looking in the windows, just fogging up the windows, looking at all the toys and the trains and all that stuff. So it was pretty. I mean, obviously, it was accurate because that was modern when the movie was made. It was. We're not looking back through it, but it was interesting. I thought again that they used each actually Macy's and Gimbels, which are two real stores.
And Gimbels.
They didn't.
They mentioned a couple others.
Yeah,
too.
they're all, and I believe they were all real stores. I know certainly Gimbels and Macy's are. I don't know if Gimbels is still around. Is that what even?
I don't believe Gimbels is still around. Very real, and they had a very real rivalry.
Yeah, I don't know if Gimbels survived, but I do remember it being there when I would go as a kid into the city.
Yeah,
Gimbels was there. And the other thing I loved about that he started as he was being Santa, and the kids would come up and the kid would say, "I want a fire truck," and the mother's going like waving him off like because he's like, "Oh yeah, you'll get your fire truck," and the mother's like, "Thanks," and he's like, "I haven't shopped. Nobody has this fire truck." I mean, if you're a parent, you've been through this where the kid wants the toy and nobody has the toy. But again, he goes, "Oh, well, such and such on this street has them. They have plenty of stock and it's a good price and blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "Oh, thank you." And of course, this expands out and immediately they're appalled that they're sending him to a competitor. But then it catches on that it's a positive thing that people.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the funny thing is, I've actually done this exact, like when I was helping Mark Patton in Vegas, I would do the same thing. Like, we don't have, people be looking for a particular Star Trek thing. And they're like, "Well, we don't have that." But you know what? I think the guy down around the corner does. I think I saw it.
Because when he doesn't have something, they'll send them up to you.
So and guess what? I had somebody come back that I sent, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to buy something from you guys because you were nice enough to send me," and it worked. It exactly like it does in the movie. It exactly worked. We ended up getting a sale that we wouldn't have got anyway, just by recommending somebody else. And as you know, with the vendors in Vegas, they all know each other anyway.
Well, yeah.
So they're not most of them aren't going to undercut the other one.
No, they're pretty cool about that. I just had another point I was going to make, and I don't remember what it was. Oh well, let's carry on. It'll come back to me.
Gimbels is now in the Manhattan Mall. I don't even know where the Manhattan Mall.
Yeah, I don't know where that is either. Yeah, Gimbels.
Cameras were big, huge film cameras, so they probably were pretty obvious to people.
I would think so, yeah. But people maybe didn't differentiate between. See, that parade wasn't what it was now. I don't. It sounded like it wasn't like the biggest attended thing. So
I think it probably grew over the years, like anything else. And now it's like, so like what you watch isn't really the parade. Like if you watch the NBC, let's say you got Al Roker out there, and they're going, what it is it spurs off in front of like Macy's.
And they do like
things, and they do their little shows.
And
then the other parts of I think the parade keep going.
And
then these things eventually either join back up or you don't really see the actual parade, all of it anyway, like they used to. When I was a kid, that was it. The cameras were on the street and the thing went by and you saw Spider-Man and you saw Snoopy and you saw, like I was a kid, I loved the balloons. That's all I wanted to see was the balloons, so. The Gimbels building is Manhattan Mall. Gimbels is long gone. Oh.
Yeah, we don't know where Manhattan Mall is either. It's been a hot minute since I've been in the city, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
I lovingly refer to as the Heart of Darkness. Like I don't like to go to the Heart of Darkness.
Manhattan is, if you have to go at Christmas time. You really do have to go.
Christmas. I've seen Rockefeller Center.
It is a certain magicalness to Manhattan at that time of year. I have to admit it. I know, and it's not it is a city like any other. It's congested, it's busy. I mean, but there's a certain energy there that around that. It's just it's nice to go. I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
go like and have to work and go deal with it every day, but I
We
do
went
recommend if you can go once during Christmas
Yeah.
time,
We
see
went.
Rockefeller Center, see the
We
tree.
saw Rockefeller Center. I got my all-time favorite ornaments
Go
there.
to FAO Schwartz, play with all the toys.
We played with toys. I believe we ate at somewhere called Carmine's. I'm not really sure. It was Italian and it was fabulous. So we had a good day of it. So yeah, I recommend going once.
Yeah, again, again, growing up in Southern Connecticut, we were in Manhattan all the time, so it was, I never went to the Christmas tree lighting. That would have been nice, but I think most cities are pretty. I was just in Montreal last weekend, and even that was all lit up, and all their parks had trees and Christmas trees and everything lit up.
Sure Boston is beautiful.
It was nice. It had snowed the night before, so everything was.
So it was all like
yeah, it had that typical magical whole look to it. And then I was just like, GTFO, let me get the hell out of the city because it's congested and it's a mess. And there's construction. If you've ever been to Montreal lately, it's just a traffic nightmare, and there's detours and they're all.
So it's basically Boston, is what you're saying.
And so as soon as I get out to the main road that heads out of the town, that's
you're like, see you later, I'm out. Well, at least it was snow. I mean, snow is manageable. Like right now, I don't know if you're having weather where you are, but we are having weather. Like right now, we are having severe weather.
They said it has been raining, but not like as much as they said it was.
We were in central Massachusetts may have gotten in some places as much as 4 inches. So it was insane. We got dumped on today.
43 here now, so
yeah.
Anyway, back to the movie.
Back to the show. I can't remember what the point was I was going to make, but let's carry on. So that 2 risky things right off the bat: film at the parade, film in Macy's when they're closed, and then pick up everything else after the holidays. And then after they did that, they took those risks, they succeeded, they did great. And then the next big debate was they were going to release it in April, and they decided, no, June is the start of the summer. They didn't have the word blockbuster back then, but they're like, June is the start of the summer movie season. Let's release it in June. And that boggles my mind. They removed any mention of Christmas. They wanted to push it as a kind of a love story, which honestly, I can't lie. The love story was like such a minor.
It was it was downplayed, like, because it didn't even like he clearly bring that up. So we could just sidebar that for a second while you brought it up. So the neighbor is those of Joe Hedden is kind of sweet on our main female character, the mother.
Her name is Doris.
Maureen O'Hara's character, and so he's got the daughter. He's befriended the daughter, and he's got the daughter kind of on board to try to get them, or at least get an invite to dinner, and try to get his foot in the door, so to speak, with her. And
which was another weird thing.
They kind of start this courting where he comes over for dinner, and then all of a sudden it's like they're dating.
Yes, and then
like,
something
there was no like,
oh,
we're gonna go on a date, and he kind of like they had a kiss or something. It's like all of a sudden, no, they're dating now.
When he comes home after the first court thing, and it's all in the newspapers, and suddenly they're like, she's like, darling, why did you? Well,
we had plans and all this stuff, and what are you? Wait, they're dating?
They met each other. It was Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was almost like they took something out, like we missed some scenes.
They edited something out. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of weird. So to play it off as a love story seemed very weak.
But that's how they marketed it. It was just, and the titles. Wait, let me tell you about they finally settled on Miracle on 34th Street. They first wanted to call it "It's Only Human." Then "This Is the Time," "The Big Heart," "My Heart Tells Me," "Meet Me at Dawn," "Miracle on Herald Square," which that might have made sense. And in the United Kingdom, it was originally released as "The Big Heart," which
it doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
This movie screams Christmas all over it. I mean, it's like to say it was a love story and that the Christmas was just. It was like happening at Christmas time.
Yeah, it starts on Thanksgiving Day. It starts on Thanksgiving Day and it ends on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, technically, yeah, because that's when they're driving and they find the house.
Yeah, they find the house.
Yeah, so
and I get that in Canada they're like, okay, that's 2 months because Canadians are in October. I can get that.
Well,
But
I know,
think
but
the rest
it's
of the world
clearly
would've
it's
understood
clearly
that
American
Americans have this thing called
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
It's clearly American Thanksgiving because we start out at the Macy's Day, New York Macy's Day Parade. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's American Thanksgiving. So
Yeah.
we all know that that's about 3 to 4 weeks tops between Christmas and
They
Thanksgiving.
definitely wanted Maureen for this. Maureen O'Hara was getting ready to go home to Ireland. She's Irish. And she was actually home in Ireland. They called her, they said, get back to New York right away. And she was irritated. Like she'd been working straight for like a bunch of her stuff, like a couple years straight. She wanted to go home and spend some time at home. And she had to turn around and come right back. And she said she was truly irritated, but she did kind of fall in love with the film. The one cute thing that I thought was really cute is they were telling all the kids on set that Ed Gwynn really was Santa. And I think even Natalie Wood was kind of buying it by the end. And then like all the little kids who were just like the extras, like the kids in line and the other little boy and stuff, they were probably all buying it. But finally Natalie saw Ed at the wrap party and he shaved. She was like so disappointed, like
she was just ruined her.
Yeah, ruined. Like, oh, it's just Ed Gwynn. The other cute thing,
we could talk a little bit about Ed because he was
because he was actually amazing. Like he was the sweetest thing in this movie. Like the other stuff is so dated to me, but he could be Santa to this day.
He really was the quintessential Santa Claus. I mean, I don't know what it was about him.
Yeah, no, he had a twinkle in his eye. And
you immediately like this guy.
Yeah.
He just if there was a Santa Claus, this guy would be it.
This guy would be it. And you know what? The other thing I was going to mention is I haven't seen the whole movie. It got really bad reviews, but the 1994 version of Miracle on 34th Street, it got bad reviews. I did make some changes to it, but that Santa was Richard Attenborough, and he was also he had that quality. He was so sweet. And there's a clip out there in this movie. Ed Gwyn's playing Santa, and a little Dutch girl comes, and he just starts speaking to her in Dutch. And you're supposed to it's very heartwarming. In the new one, she's deaf. And he immediately starts signing to her. And it really is very, very sweet. Like it's a lovely, lovely scene. Both movies, I think, do it really beautifully.
I'm glad you mentioned that scene because that is the closest thing I think we saw that he might really be Santa Claus.
Be Santa,
what are the odds that he would know Dutch? It's kind of it's not
like he tested him and made sure he knew all the languages, but
yeah. I mean, I think you notice they didn't have like an Italian kid or a German kid or something come up and have to do the same thing. Then it would be even more obvious. But Dutch is kind of not a common language that somebody would just randomly know. Like there's people that speak French and people that speak Spanish and stuff like that. So you say, okay, that's not that out of line, but the Dutch was kind of. And that's why the mother was like that, or the orphan. I guess she wasn't the mother, but she was the
her adopted mother.
She was her adopted mother.
What she says. Fun fact: the kid was American. I don't know how she came to speak Dutch. Maybe learned it phonetically. Did speak it with an American accent. But what she says is, "I don't want anything. I already have my present because I got adopted." And the implication is that World War II had just ended, and there would have been orphans that many Americans were adopting. So that's kind of the gist there. It's never really said, but you kind of put one, 2 and 2 together and added 12 and carry 5. And that's what you get. So
anyway, that was a great scene. And
it's a great scene in both movies.
Yeah, I'm sure it worked really well. I'm glad that they came up with something similar.
Yeah.
In the other movie because it really was kind of important.
Bill says, yes, Chris, yes, it did. Ed did. This thing got nominated for 4 Academy Awards. It lost Best Picture, but it won the other 3, and one of them was for Ed as Santa. And Bill is saying, I believe he's Santa. Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit. It is deliberately ambiguous, and I have seen it argued both ways, and any of us could argue it both ways.
I also thought there was what I felt was really quite interesting was you have this federal judge or state judge for Supreme Court judge
who's aspiring to a political career.
Well, I guess they're elected in New York, so at least at this time they were elected. I've known in Florida. I remember voting on all kinds of judges for different courts. I don't know why they left it up to people to vote on because I had no clue who I would. I'm saying it was a judge.
Because you don't know. Yeah.
So anyway, but the guy that was kind of giving him political advice, he was right on the ball, which is actually Fred Mertz from I Love Lucy, by the way.
Yes, it was William Frawley.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's right on it saying, look, he's like, you don't want any part of this. It's like, you're literally trying to put Santa Claus on trial. He's like, there's
Yeah.
you cannot
It's
say
gonna
this
end
guy's
badly.
crazy because you're gonna like all. So exactly, look what happens. All the kids now don't believe in Santa Claus because you're saying there's no Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And now they don't, parents aren't buying toys. The toy manufacturers aren't sending. We're laying people off. Like that was very on point. I felt like even I thought for a movie that they really kind of nailed it. That's pretty much what would happen. I'm saying if it was like you're saying, the state of New York says there is no Santa Claus. You can see now, maybe not today as bad. I don't know how many kids really believe. I don't know. I mean,
The littles do. The little ones do. And you
I don't
should
know
let
if this
them
is
have
probably,
that.
whatever as it
Let
was
them
back
have
then.
that for as long as you can, because that's all we have left these days.
I remember though, my nephew, when they told him, he got older and they finally told him that, it's mom and dad that buys the presents. And I think to this day, as an adult, he still holds it against them that they lied to him. He lying to me all those years.
That is fun. So minor, this was I have a couple little like trivial things I want to talk about. And I also want to talk about how this, like you mentioned before, how A Christmas Story kind of is a beautiful view into life in the 40s. This is also such a fascinating view into life in the 40s. Like they're all upset because the guy was drinking but they were smoking. And like, it just like, there are so many little things that happen that you're like, oh, that's dated. That's dated. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, the smoking is kind of common. I mean,
yeah,
people still drink. So let's face it. I mean,
people
that
still
one I
drink.
think.
But like things like a store psychiatrist, like I don't even think they ever had a store psychiatrist. That it's either dated or frankly fictitious.
I'd say, yeah, I don't know which one. I could see it maybe at a big company.
I could see a doctor, a store doctor, but
Well, he was just like psychologist, not a psychiatrist. So let's be honest. And
well, they say
he was the bad guy. He clearly had his issues.
Yes.
That was the other nice story with the janitor kid who dresses up as Santa Claus to YMCA and how and this guy's telling them how he's got issues because he enjoys being Santa Claus, and that was a nice little side story I thought that was going on with him.
Yeah.
And again, you kind of, for some reason, you just like this kid right out of the gate.
Yeah, you do. You really do. He seems like he's a good guy.
They did a good job. I don't know if it was just the way
this was one of his very first. Yeah, I can't remember the performer's name, but it was his very first.
But I'm just saying, it was the way they portrayed it. You just immediately like these people.
Yeah.
Like there's no, and like, the other guy, of course, the actor they got for him to play that psychiatrist, I forget his name. He was,
Sawyer, Dr. Sawyer.
Yeah. He was not a very attractive looking man. You know what I'm saying? He was, yeah. Porter Hall is his name. He kind of looks like a little weaselly dude. So,
yeah.
But then they get the doctor that's the real psychiatrist. Remember, he comes in and he's like very,
he was a lot more
because tall and
but they were doing some things. They were doing some very stereotypical things that they did in the movies back then. Like he's the handsome blonde doctor, so of course he's right. Whereas this Weasley looking balding dark-haired guy, he's the bad guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was that kind of psychology.
Yeah, it's just like when they could have put one in a black suit, one in a white suit. That kind of thing. It was very obvious. Again, they do that. Again, it was movies back then were so simplistic.
Oh God, yeah.
They would just. It was almost like they had to do it so that you get confused.
So exactly. A few little tidbits I want to share. So there've only ever been 3 Christmas movies to get Oscar nods. The first one was It's a Wonderful Life, which was 1946, and the other 2 are this one and The Bishop's Wife, both which got nods in 1947. And I already said before, this thing won 3 out of its 4. The line, because the little boy, they call him up to the stand and they're saying, "Do you believe this, Santa?" And why? Because my daddy told me so. Wasn't in the script. It was something that kid came up with, and it's genius. Like it's the most genius line ever.
So we wonder what was the line supposed to be?
I have no idea. I have no idea. They were asking him, why do you believe? I can't remember how the conversation went now. They were asking, why do you believe?
They're asking him, yeah, do you believe? I think,
But
and
the thing
why,
is, he's the prosecuting attorney's kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
yeah, that's what it was the gotcha moment because
it
the
was the gotcha
prosecutor
moment. Yeah,
is has told his kid that there's a Santa Claus.
exactly.
And how's he? So if he basically backs out on that, he's gonna you have to admit to his kid that he's been lying to him.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
it makes him look bad in the court. So it was that kind of very Perry Mason moment.
It was so brilliant. Like, I wonder if the kid. They say the kid came up with it. I wonder if he was like like they were planted suggestions or what. But it was so smart.
I don't know.
We talked already about Edmund Gwenn. They absolutely all adored him. We adore him. He was not their first choice. Interestingly enough, they wanted his cousin. He has a cousin named Cecil Calloway, who was a 2-time Oscar winner that I've never heard of. But Cecil couldn't do it, so Ed got it, and Ed gained 30 pounds for this role.
Yep.
And he looks good. He looks good. Yeah. Macy's declined participation in the 1994 remake, hence my name here. So they gave it to Coles. Okay, sure, whatever. Natalie, she was 8 years old. Natalie Wood was 8 years old, and this little girl was working on The Ghost and Mrs. Muir at the same time. So this kid's days were like shoot Ghost all morning, stop and go to like a couple hours of school midday, and then shoot Miracle all afternoon into the evening. That is insane for 8 years old.
They didn't have the same laws, I guess, back then for child labor.
They didn't have the unions and all that. Interestingly enough, they do mention AFL and CIO. Those two have since merged, but they are both specifically mentioned by name in this movie. Yeah. That house is a real house. It's in Port Washington. They actually, you can find the address online. I believe it has since been kind of redesigned, so it doesn't look like that. What an odd house for her to set her heart on. When I looked at, it's got that weird like flat front. It didn't look right. I was like, girl, there's much better choices. I don't know. She liked that.
I don't know. Maybe that was more common at the time.
Or maybe it was the only empty one on the street that they could film it.
Maybe, yeah, they had to. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, what year she died? What, 84, 83?
Natalie or Maureen O'Hara?
Natalie
Wood.
1981.
1981, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's interesting because Brainstorm, which was her last movie, I guess it was released in 83.
So. Phil has asked us, it's kind of a science fiction-ish one, and Phil has asked us many times to do it. Maybe we should finally take a look.
Brainstorm?
Yep.
Oh, it's definitely got science fiction, no question about it. Have you never seen it?
I've never seen Brainstorm. No.
It's interesting film.
Okay, well, we could do Make Me Watch and have Phil on because he loves it. He's asked us for it a couple times now.
Well, that's good because then you can just sit there and let Phil talk for a half hour and sit here.
Don't say that.
I'm not saying that in a bad way at all. It's just a good thing. It's a good thing. So people can hear somebody else yap instead of us. So, who else did we? I just accidentally closed my browser. Hold on.
Yeah, so we talked about Maureen O'Hara, John Payne. I don't know what else John Payne. He must have been in a few things, but nothing that's jumping out at me. Gene Lockhart, Porter Hall.
Oh, you got to remember, this is 70 years ago almost.
This is 73.
Yeah, so I mean,
wait, what year was this? 1947.
1947.
And we're now in what, 2024?
2024.
So, 7 plus 4 is 6. 7. Yeah. 7,
he worked on stuff right up to 1977. Will look like his last thing. So.
The other little tidbit, they had Harry Entrim in there as Mr. Macy, as R.H. Macy. R.H. Macy died in the 1880s, so that part of the movie was a bit fictitious, but the rest of it, it's going right along.
Yeah, I was wondering about stuff like that if they actually had pulled somebody, that actually worked for the store or something.
Yeah. Yeah, Macy. R.H. Macy, obviously, but he was older than what this movie would depict him as.
Right. I was trying to find who was the guy. Oh, it was supposed to be Philip Tung. He was the one that was the other manager that worked with Maureen O'Hara, Doris Walker, the actress, the other one that kept saying at first he's like he's telling everybody to go to the other stores, and then it's like, oh, it's a great idea. I just like the way they kept thinking he was drunk.
He's clearly not drunk.
He's clearly not. So, and she was good. What I thought was interesting too, they're going to fire him over it. And I'm like, for some reason, because he had filled out his employee card as Kris Kringle.
Oh yeah, and did you see the card?
Fire him over
like crazy dancer.
Yeah, that was the kind of funny at the beginning when he's correcting the store owner.
Yeah, but then he put him on that card. Like if you read that card, he says his address is North Pole, and it says dependents, and he listed them all as dependents. Yeah. It's so cute.
Of course, you obviously you wouldn't get away with that today because you'd need all kinds of more paperwork to get a job.
Of course. Chris is reminding us that Ed is amazing. He played a cold-blooded murderous spy in Hitchcock's Foreign Correspondent. Wait, what are you saying, Chris? In Hitchcock's Foreign Correspondent to the 50s classic sci-fi Them. Did he play in those? Hang on, let me look. Let me look real quick. But yeah, I mean, and Ed is another one, like he passed in 1959. I wouldn't exist on this planet for another 11 years. So all his stuff is like, to me. Yeah, you're right. He was Dr. Harold Medford in Them, 1954.
There's actually by the way, a Star Trek connection.
Is there really?
There is. The actor who played Jeff Corey is the actor. He played in the Cloudminders episode. He was the prefect or whatever. He plays one of the reporters. It's uncredited, but he was one of the reporters in. So there's Star Trek, Another Road, which we haven't done in forever. But there's your road.
Yeah, I stopped doing roads. I'm just looking at Ed Gwyn's. You're right. He did Foreign Correspondent. Chris, you're absolutely right. I'm surprised in his later years, he did a bunch of kind of sci-fi stuff. I am impressed with that. Besides
Hitchcock stuff,
science fiction theater, and multiple Alfred Hitchcock Presents ones.
Yeah, Jack Albertson, of course, is in a ton of stuff. Chris pointed out, I think it was Chris put Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory. Of course, he was the grandfather.
Yeah.
He also was that he was the Chico and the Man, right? Wasn't he?
Oh, was he?
I think so. Not the same guy. Yeah, I think that's the same guy.
But also many little shots, like even the shot in the mailroom. There's a quick shot, or the post office, and you're like, "Wow, that's changed." They don't do it like that anymore. Like everything.
88 episodes of that show.
Wow,
I can't believe that. Yeah, so he was the man, as in Chico in the Man.
Chico and the Man.
Trying to think, the rest of the people I don't really recognize as anything. Department store head, we already mentioned Jeff Corey. So,
because you know what, this is 1947, and a lot of these folks, with the exception of like Maureen and Natalie, most of these actors are already like middle-aged or older.
Oh, so,
they're already.
Natalie would probably still be alive. Potentially,
Natalie would still be with us.
Potentially, she'd be in her 80s.
Yeah.
But late 80s for that matter. Almost mid anyway. Because she would have been born 1930.
Yeah, she was 8 when she did this, so 1939, 38?
Something like that. I'll tell you in a second. 1938. So she's a couple years younger than my mother, who's still alive. So anyway, could have been. Obviously, she had a tragic end.
What it could have, should have. But that's all I mean, I've given you all my little tidbits. That's all.
There's not really much else to talk about this film. I mean, what do you guys, the audience, think? I mean, how do you rate this next to, like Mary Beth put it, next to It's a Wonderful Life, as far as Christmas movies go, or on the Christmas movie scale?
Yeah, and while you're typing that out,
better than Die Hard?
Yeah, is it better than Die Hard? While you're typing that out, the budget was $248,000. It grossed $2.7 million. Somebody did the math. They say that the kid wanted a fire truck or something, and he says it's $9.98 over it. Someone did the math. 1947 to 2020. Actually, this is 2023, but it's close. $9.98 in 1947 is equivalent to $127 now. So that was not that cheap of a fire truck. Like that was a pricey fire truck.
No, that's true. That's I didn't catch that, but you're right. That is true because that's why you say it cost them what $274,000, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You think about it. First of all, elevators.
Did they say what the house's price was?
The house was probably like less than
$10,000. I bet the house was like
$10,000. But you also were paying probably 25 cents to see this in the theater.
Not even.
Something like that. Even. So, it's all relative.
Yeah.
It's inflation. People complain about prices but everything, if you look at the people, I love when people complain, well, what it was 30 years ago, it was this price. And I'm like, well, go back to the 30 years before that. And then what was the price? That's what inflation is. Everything just keeps going up.
Everything just keeps going
doesn't go down.
Hopefully, theoretically, our incomes also go up.
This must have been relatively inexpensive to make in the sense that they weren't really using a lot of standing sets.
No, they weren't building
Macy's. They were using the parade. They probably had a set for the apartment.
The apartments,
yeah, and maybe the courtroom scene, which are probably stuff they had generically they could put together at a studio. It didn't have to be really built specifically for this film. So I could see where they would get away with being not only a very low budget to begin with, but of course it's costs are relative.
Yeah,
you're probably paying crew, 25 cents an hour. It's $1 an hour or something like whatever the heck it was at the time. I had no idea what an average rate was.
Yeah, Bill is saying my parents' house in 1952 was $4,000.
Yeah. I mean, even in 1991, my first house in Florida, granted you measured the lot in feet, was like $82,000. Now people are paying that for cars.
Yeah, exactly. My parents' house they got married in 68. So having 68 was $18,000.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. My parents, I think they bought their first house in, I want to say 65, somewhere in there. It was probably about that. On an acre of land.
This glorious house you see me in was somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Mine wasn't that much, but I live in a rural area.
11, so yeah.
I get 5 acres, so.
I've got 3, so.
Yeah, so all of it's unusable, but it's there.
I know. I'd have to clear woods. Like if I decided to
farm, I have a right of way, so I'd have to change the deed, and it wouldn't yet. I could just clear it for use, but not build anything.
Yeah. So all right. So that actually, oddly enough, kind of concludes our Christmassy.
Yeah, Christmas, because next week we're gonna do. Even though we probably would have done a Christmas one, but we're gonna do The Man with the Golden Gun because it's 50th
Christopher Lee
with
and Roger Moore.
And Roger Moore in his second outing as Bond.
Yep.
Roy and Ross are joining us for that. Ross and Roy. So we're going to have and then we're going to be on their show. Is it the following Friday?
The very next, like the day after.
I think it's the very following Friday. We're going to be on Roy's show for another Bond film, The Goldfinger, which is the 60th anniversary of Goldfinger, if you can believe it.
So all kinds of anniversaries.
So we're doing all kinds of Bond week next week.
And Bond week next week. So first the Golden Gun, then the Golden Itchy Trigger Finger.
Right. And then Itchy Trigger Finger. So, and then of course we will be off Christmas Day.
Yes.
We do have to spend time with our families once in a while.
We do have families.
And then we're going to come back. We're going to try to figure out this kind of watch party thing.
Yes, we're still trying to figure that out.
New Year's Day night. So, yeah.
Yes, Chris, it's a crossover.
Yeah. The double crossover.
It's a double crossover.
Double cross.
It's a double Golden Cross crossover.
So, but yeah, that should be fun. We always have a good time when we go on each other's shows. Do you want us to be
Austin Powers Gold member just to keep the gold thing going?
Gold member, yeah, we should. I love gold.
We should just for
Not the best Austin Powers movie, but
no.
it was that had some yucks in it.
Yeah.
Bong and a what was it? Bong and a pancake? Bong and a blintz, that's what it was. Smoking a pancake.
Oh god.
Anyway. All right. Well, it's close enough to 8 before we get any sillier. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Of course, catch us next week, obviously, for Man with the Golden Gun and on Roy's show. We should have fun. I don't know. Did you say what Phil's doing? Phil's just doing
Phil, I reached out to Phil today and he did not get back to me. So he may
well, then he loses. So no Phil.
No Phil.
No Phil stuff. Phil's on the radio. Just go to WSB Radio on the website there. Just Google it, and you can see where he is. I think on their schedule. So
and Roy, right. You can look up. So
on that note, this is a good movie. It's a great family movie. It's yeah, it makes you smile if you get you in the Christmas mood. I think so. I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up on this one. I enjoyed watching it. I literally kind of one thing I did notice. I want to say one last thing. Watching these old movies, you can understand everybody so clearly.
Yeah,
you don't need subtitles. Everybody enunciates. It's like it's clear. It's sharp. You know exactly what they said. There's no. What did he say?
There's no music kind of playing also loudly.
It's like it's like we live in a really, really bad time for audio. So anyway, I just wanted to point that I did make a note of it. Mental note while I was watching it. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. Until then, as always, live long and prosper, and may the force be with you always. Good night.